So in terms of items that I think embody that, without giving you an entire range presentation of every single item up here, what I'll maybe do is just grab a few items that I think bring that to life quite nicely. And then once that's done, in 5 or 6 or 7 minutes time, then just happy to take whatever questions you have at the end. So from a technological perspective, and I think from a design and aesthetic perspective, one of the garments that we do that I think embodies these considerations well is our Bergelmir shell jacket, which the gentleman in the back row here is modelling for us very well. Everybody in the world, every man and his dog knows of Gore-Tex. It's the industry standard in the same way that Hoover is. And that was obviously the obstacle that we were going to come up against if we chose to use something else. But we wanted to make sure that when we did launch to market, what we were using was something different, because otherwise it would have been very difficult to distinguish ourselves from the many other brands that use Gore-Tex. Fortunately for us, Polartec had just launched a fabric called Neoshell at the time. And in simple terms, it's similar to Gore-Tex, similar to Event, in as much as it's a waterproof membrane. It will keep you dry. But what it does do, in a head and shoulders capacity above anything else, is that it breathes, and it genuinely breathes. The reason that it breathes, in simple terms, is that it's about 99.7% windproof. The 0.3% of air that gets through is too little for a human being to feel. Nobody would feel 0.3%, even in the world's most ferocious gale coming through. But what it does allow is it allows due regulation, airflow, climate to exist. You've got air coming in, it stimulates the air inside and the moisture inside to be able to get back out in the way that other membranes actually don't allow. The experience that Steve and I have both had, like I'm sure most people here have had as well, of wearing many other membranes, is the cooking effect that you get, this internal climate when you're working hard, when sweat doesn't properly evaporate. And it's not a particularly comfortable place to be in, especially if you're working hard in hostile environments when it's cold, and the effect of suddenly cooling down on that sweat, what it has in the human body. So to suddenly have, because of technology, a system that deals with one of the inherent problems of wearing a shell, was to us big news, and we were delighted for that to have come available at the time that it did. It's also got a nice soft stretchiness to it as well, so from a climbing perspective, given all of the bending and stretching and reaching that you do as a climber, as a skier, just to have that movement in of itself is really useful. It's got a nice soft touch to it as well. It doesn't rustle like a crisp packet. In functional terms, it doesn't matter whether it does or whether it doesn't, but it's just a nice touch, and it's got a nice soft feel to it as well. So all of these things combined in a fabric and the technology that went into it, which for us was really exciting. And in design terms, as you'll see, there's no bells or whistles to it. There's nothing hanging off it. It's just a shell, but it does what a shell jacket is supposed to do. It keeps you dry, it keeps the wind off you, and it allows you to breathe when you're working hard. And so what that allows us to do in design terms is just focus everything onto the cut, onto the fit, and just making sure that the accessories that we spec this with are the very best ones that we could get our hands on. And I know that to most people, that there, for example, is just a piece of elastic. But to Steve and I, this is one piece of elastic out of about 820 pieces of elastic that we've seen over the last couple of years that exist out there. And every single piece of elastic has a different grade and a different handle and a different texture to it. The embroidery thread that goes into making the logo here, again, really doesn't make a difference to most normal people. But again, from our perspective, it was just getting the small detail right and making sure that the thread we were using for the embroidery allowed us to create a logo that was as clean and as smart and as finished form as it was. So this is the Bergelmir. This is our shell jacket. It's been really popular this year. Despite the price tag on it, it's not cheap. It's £450. But for people that want something that works and that continues to work, that packs down nice and small, and that you just don't have to worry about servicing and looking after and putting through a strict washing routine. This is done really, really well this year. And this is a new colour we just brought out in. It used to exist just in black and red. So very pleased to have brought Blue Brother onto the scene as of a couple of weeks ago. Okay, another example of technology and trying to make it work for us is our down jacket. We've got the Fjorm here, and we've got the Fenrir here, which is our latest addition to the stable. On the surface, down jackets, but it's really important the type of down that you use, and in this case the treatment applied to each particular cluster of down. It's referred to as hydrophobic, which effectively means that it's water repellent. The water repellency is applied by an American company that we partnered with about a year and a half ago called Downtech, who have a proprietary treatment where in the lab they zap each down cluster at the nano level, which applies a treatment to the down, that when that piece of down comes into contact with water, the water just beads off it. So it goes a long way to solving the inherent flaw in down products, which, as you'll know, they're great when it's dry, but the second that they get wet, whether that's through rain or whether that's through knocking a kettle full of water that you've just melted in your tent painstakingly for the last half hour all over yourself, then the down just clusters like wet porridge and has no effect whatsoever. So having something that goes a long way to solving that problem for us was a big deal. It doesn't make it completely waterproof. You can't go scuba diving in it, for example, but it just helps solve that problem that's been out there. The quality of the down that went into it, you'll probably be aware of all of the different fill power numbers that exist. We use 850, which is about as good as it gets. And the quality of the down that goes into that, there's a ratio that determines just how high that quality is. And it's a ratio between the quill part of the down and the actual down fronds themselves. And the ratio in this case is 93% frond, fluffy, warm bit, and 7% quill. So that, in statistical terms, for people who those numbers matter to, they're pretty good numbers. And what it does make, this piece, when you stack it up against competitor products, it makes it pretty competitive. From a design perspective, just trying to solve, again, some of those flaws that exist in down products. Yes, the down inside it is water repellent, but it will only repel water up to a certain point. If you were to scrunch it up in the bottom of a bath, for 20 minutes, then it would start to take on water. So it has limitations to it. But how can we design in barriers to the effects of water into this product? So what we did is we took each area on the jacket, and the Fenrir and the Fjorm are exactly the same. Which areas are the ones that tend to wet out first? Well, it's normally the cuff, because that's the one clearly closest to the hand that comes into contact with snow or water. It's the hem that can stick out either the bottom of the shell jacket, or it's what you happen to sit on when you're sitting in the snow or in the rain, or it's the collar when it's done up nice and high like this that you breathe into, so all of the vapour flows out the mouth. So we strip the down out of those areas completely, and we put a synthetic fill inside. And the great thing about a completely synthetic fill is that even when it's absolutely saturated, it still continues to insulate. So we're just trying to design in features that would do their best to withstand the effects of moisture over time. from an aesthetic perspective, and I suppose a functional perspective as well, one of the pieces in the range that we launched with last year and has been our most popular piece is the Alfar midlayer, which is this one here. This is the women's version. These are some more of the women's ones down here. The male versions over here. What we were trying to do was design something that was as versatile as possible. Something that kept your body core nice and warm, but something that when you were working hard, whether it was ski touring or climbing, also allowed you to breathe and to stretch as well. So we took a synthetic fabric, wrapped it inside a windproof nylon outer to provide the warmth around the body core. And then we used this fabric here, which is Polartec's Power Stretch Pro, which is nice soft material to the touch, but it breathes beautifully. So when you've got this on, it'll keep the core nice and warm, but it will dump all of the excess heat out the side. And the great spin-off with that material as well is it's really, really stretchy. So when you're reaching, where you're doing whatever it is, it moves beautifully with the body. And even though we designed it to be a really techy piece, very much designed at winter climbers, ski tours, mountaineers, it's also a really versatile piece as well, as I'll testify to, as my wife Rach will testify, as my mother-in-law Mary, who's wearing hers, will testify to as well. It's something that I live in, and Rach needs to prize off me at the end of the week to throw in the washing machine. So, really applicable piece that has utility out with the mountains as well. The final piece that I'll talk about, and this is just to give a quick story into the design challenges that Steve and I had over the last 6 months, last 12 months. Our salopettes here, these are Vanir salopettes, and these make use of Polartec's Neo-Shell as well. And I've spoken about the benefits of the breathability, of the waterproofness, of the stretch. They really come into their own in a piece like this. And obviously, from a climbing perspective, it's your legs, it's your buttocks, the parts of your body that are bending and stretching all the time. And if you've got material that actually has stretch in it in the first place, then it allows you to cut them just a little bit closer to the body, as opposed to a big flappy pair of salopettes that you're continually catching your front points in with your ski edges. And we found that worked absolutely brilliantly. Like Gore-Tex, Neo-Shell comes in loads of different grades. Each grade has its own particular price point, its own performance characteristics. But unlike Gore-Tex, it doesn't have a beautiful, catchy name like Pro-Shell or Active or XCR. It has a 16-digit barcode number instead, which is so cool. However, as a fabric, from a functional perspective, works really, really well in these. But we went through the mill and round the houses, just selected what we thought was the right grade to use in the trousers. And what we decided to do was just use a grade that was slightly lighter than in the Bergelmir shell. And then saving the weight there, it allowed us to reinforce the instep protectors here, which from our own experience and from probably most people here as well, if they're cut too low, then you end up slicing the top piece here with your front points and with your ski edges. And if they're not made of the right material, then they're so easy to slice through. So we thought, let's really reinforce these. Bomb-proof Kevlar, which is what we've used here. And we're allowed to do that because of the weight saving that we've made elsewhere. Other things that we thought about with these is, they're obviously designed primarily as for ice climbing, Scottish winter climbing. But on the basis of last year, we found that we were selling a lot of these to ski tourers as well. We said, the trousers are great, however, they're just a little bit tight around the boot as far as the inner gaiter. This thing here is concerned, because obviously ski touring boots, slightly larger volume to them than standard mountain boots. So with the versions that we brought out this year, they come with this little stuff sack here, and what this contains inside it is another set of these internal gaiters zip out, but they've just got slightly broader volume to them, so that if you're using them for ski touring, you can then wrap them around the larger ski touring boots that you've got. So, it's not earth-shattering at all, but it is, I think, a meaningful point of difference, and it's that point of difference and that detail that Steve and I have been obsessed with since the start of that, and just to see that come to fruition in a pair of trousers like these. Every time I look at them, half of me wants to cry, just because of the design challenge that these represented. But the other half, when I look at them, actually makes me feel quite proud, which is a nice feeling. And what I suppose the best feeling of all is seeing people out there on the hill wearing this gear. I remember the first guy I saw wearing a Jottnar product was up in the Lake District. And I ran up to him and I thought he thought that I was just about to mug him. But just absolute delight that there it was, out there in the wild, a real person who wasn't one of us. And that in itself was great. And it turns out he bought it from Up and Under, which was even better, and spoke so highly about all of the guys in the shop, and just what a great job they did of talking about its benefits and making sure that he was buying something that fitted him correctly and that was being used properly. So from our perspective, that was obviously great, really good to see. Anyway, my throat is feeling like I've been probably talking for a little bit too long now, and I think what might be the best thing to do now, if you thought so too, was just take any questions on anything at all, whether it's the product or whether it is the company, as in the two of us, or maybe nothing at all. And if that's the case, then the gear is on display up here for you to try on and pull apart and do what you want.